this happens Tuesday night, I'm going to leave this world with a smile on my face.
With just days until he's scheduled to die by lethal injection, Richard Clay says he wants to set the record straight.
You know, I've always maintained my innocence.
At the time of Clay's arrest here on May 20th, 1994, Clay says the only thing he was guilty of was dealing drugs. He describes what was going through his mind when these images were captured on that morning.
You're going from what you think is drug charges to these people being overly aggressive and snatching you by your hair and yanking you and pulling you. And when they said Randy Martindale's name, it didn't even dawn on me exactly what it was, because I'd never ever met Mr. Martindale. I'd never met him, except for that time, that few hours before that, he walked by the car.
And what happened a few hours earlier is the story few people tell the same version of. We know Randy Martindale was shot 4 times in his bedroom, and prosecutors say Clay pulled the trigger. In 1995, a jury found Clay guilty in a murder plot that also included the victim's wife, Stacy, and her lover, Chuck Sanders. But Clay says he never went inside the house, and he isn't sure who the real shooter is.
I don't know what went on in that house.
The case became a he said, she said, and Clay says he was set up for the fall.
Ricky Clay was considered a street thug and a drug dealer. It was the easiest.
Clay says the reason he and Sanders were outside the house that night was because they were waiting on Stacy to bring them money for drugs. But Sanders told the court he was not along for the ride at all, one that resulted in a high-speed chase and a manhunt. Clay thought the whole thing was over drugs.
I had already drug charges pending from about a year before this that I hadn't went to trial on.
Clay was arrested and charged with murder. At trial, Clay says evidence surfaced he thought would free him.
A crime lab guy up on the stand, and he said Miss Martindale had gunpowder on the back of her hands. I thought I was going home.
But that didn't happen. Clay and his lawyers say he deserves another chance because of witnesses and evidence that for some reason defense lawyers and prosecutors withheld. They also claim there's no physical evidence linking Clay to the murder. While he's still hoping for a stay in his execution, he says he's at peace, even knowing the date he is scheduled to die, and he holds no anger towards anyone.
You want to make sure that as you leave your family and friends, that you leave nothing unsaid.
Live local late breaking in Bonne Terre. Holly Brantley, Heartland News.